Hi, I'm Kara, mom of 3, pediatric sleep expert, certified parenting coach, and founder of Well Rested Mama. Welcome to the Unswaddled podcast. Tune in every other week as we chat about baby and toddler sleep solutions, overcoming parenting challenges, and all things messy motherhood. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Well Rested Mama Unswaddled. Today, we're going to talk about what most people don't, which is what to do to prepare for sleep training. Okay, you finally made the decision. You are going to implement sleep training, but instead of just like diving in, we want to make sure you're ready. So we're going to break it down and kind of just go through the steps for you so that we can make sure that when you guys decide to make that running start, you're prepared, everyone's on the same page, and you're ready to go. Okay, so first things first is why do you have to prepare, right? Which sounds like a silly question, but we really want to make sure that you are setting yourself up for success in the sense of, you know what your goal is, you know how you're going to get there, you know what might pop up along the way to kind of discourage you or feel like there's a setback, but you're ready for those things to happen. So you're going to be successful because you are prepared. First things first, which I feel like this is the number one reason people can get off the rails, is because the parents are not on the same page. And what I mean by that is you both want it, kind of, right? But one of you might not be as affected by the nighttime sleep. So that person might be a little less motivated to go full force. Or one person might be more sensitive than the other, which can cause a little bit of turmoil, I could say. The last thing you want is to be putting your baby into their crib, getting ready to implement sleep training. You're going for it, and one person is like, I don't want to do this anymore. Okay. So that's where we want both parents to be on board, both parents to be prepared and ready to implement this 100%, because that's the only way that it's going to work. And I will tell you that if you are not both on board, but you're both going to be involved in the process, it's not going to work. Okay. So it's really important that you guys are having the conversation. You're making this decision together so that you can ensure you're going to come out on the other side of this successful. I think a big part of this conversation is going to be really like laying it all out there and having a conversation of why do you want to do this in the first place? Okay. Is it, you're just so exhausted that it's affecting your mental health? Is it you are just sick of waking up all night long because you have other kids during the day? Is it because, you're being disrupted and then you have to get up for work in the morning? Like, what is your number one reason of why you want to improve your little one's sleep, which is ultimately going to improve your sleep? And I know that sounds silly. Like, obviously the answer is you're tired, right? But like, you want to dig a little bit deeper into that and finding your why, because if you don't have a why, you're not going to be successful. And that is where we want you guys both to understand, this is my why, this is your why, and both of those whys, even if they're different, are equally as important, so that you guys can understand what each other are going through, what your goals are going to be, so that you can ultimately think of it as you're respecting each other's stance on the situation, so that you're like, okay, I want to help you because you're struggling with this, and you want to help me because I'm struggling with this. And then that way you're working together and there's no doubt on either end. And this is going to help you just be aligned so that you're working together and not against each other, because I can promise you, I have been not involved, but obviously we're coaches, right? We have been put in situations where the parents are battling each other. Okay. And you're not going to get anywhere doing that. And it's not fun for anybody. So starting out with this conversation is going to go a long way. It's also really going to help when the middle of the night comes, because guess what? Your baby's going to wake up in the middle of the night and you're going to have to implement sleep training. And when both of you are on board, no one's going to be second guessing it. No one's going to be like, babe, just go feed her, she'll go back to bed. There's going to be none of that, because you both want the same thing. You both have a goal in mind. It's set. It's ready. Just trust me. Get on the same page, go out for a date night, have the conversation, and it'll be worth it. Okay, next thing is going to be the sleep environment. Okay, and you guys know that like this is something that I am very passionate about. And I know that if you go hit Google, you're going to find other opinions and that's fine. But I will tell you that this works. We know it works. We do it every single day. The sleep environment when it comes to sleep training is so important. And I get the whole daytime, you want them to know it's day out. They might go to daycare and you're like, well, they sleep in the light during the day. That's fine. And to be honest, that's not really why I'm so passionate about the dark room. I'm passionate about the dark room because you are going to be going into the room, right? Like during sleep training, you're entering that sleep environment. When you're going in there, if they can see you bright as day, forget it. You're going to irritate them. It's going to set them off and they're going to be so frustrated. Whereas if you're entering a room to implement sleep training and they can't see you, but they know you're there by your voice and your touch, it's going to help them be more successful with those check-ins. It's going to help you be more successful when it comes to soothing them and calming them down. And that's going to get you to your end goal faster. And you also want to keep in mind that your little one is not going to sleep all night long. Okay. I don't care if your best friend is like, my baby sleeps 7 to 7, perfect angel. They don't. Okay. They're waking up all night long. However, that baby's an independent sleeper. So they're waking up, they're looking around, they're moving a little bit, and they're going back to sleep. So if your little one's having those wake ups, which they're going to, and they can see light or there's night lights or there's stars on the ceiling, like guess what? They're not going to go back to bed. So that's where that sleep environment is super important. It's dark. The white noise is on. It's cold. I always tell people if you're going to wake up in the middle of the night, it's because you're uncomfortable probably, and you're like kicking a leg out or you're hot or whatever it may be. That is all being removed. That variable is not existing because you are setting that room up in that temperature correctly so that they're not going to wake up hot. And just changing the sleep environment in general can do so much. Like I can't even tell you how many times we've had a client that comes in, right? They tell us everything. We change the sleep environment and they're like, we don't need to sleep train anymore. And we're like, okay, right? Like it worked. It was instant. And I always say, like, if you're going to go to a hotel room, okay, and you want to take a nap, you're cranking down the air, you're closing the blackout blinds, like you're in that bed, you're cozy, like you're setting yourself up for success when it comes to taking that nap. You're not going to take good in your bed at 2 p.m. in the afternoon with all the lights on, the TV going, the kids screaming. You're not going to fall asleep. Okay. So kind of think about that, set them up for success, but also know that by doing that is not going to affect their like on the go naps. Like they're still going to fall asleep in the car. They're still going to fall asleep in the carrier, stroller, whatever it may be. Those naps might not be as long, but they still will happen. And I promise it'll make the sleep training at night so much easier. Another thing that we do with our clients, and this is something that you can easily do yourself, is take a step back and look at what does your day look like day to day. Okay. And what I mean by that is you're just writing everything down. So the time your little one's waking up in the morning, what time are they eating? How much are they eating? What time's their first nap? How long did that nap last? Okay. You're keeping a log throughout the entire day. So you're able to pinpoint, okay, they just took a 2-hour nap. That's an amazing nap. It was restorative. Why did they take that? Let's take a step back and look at how long were they awake before that nap. Okay. You want to find the patterns. You want to see what they're doing so that you're able to realize like, okay, if they have this amount of time before a nap, they're going to sleep this long. If they have this amount of time before a nap, they're only going to sleep this long, right? So you want to find where those good naps are happening. You want to find where that bedtime is landing. Okay. If you are going through the day, you wrote everything down, bedtime was at 7. They went to bed, but then they woke up at 8:30. They were overtired. Take a step back. Look at that schedule. So that logging is what we have our clients do. We do 3 days of a consecutive log so that we can look at that. We can evaluate it and we can say, all right, this little one needs this amount of naps, this amount of awake time during the day so that we're not having those false starts at night. Looking at all of that is really going to help you figure out what schedule is best for you and where your little one falls. Schedules can, obviously they're complicated and this is something that we can help with, but schedules are age appropriate, but you also want to take into account what your little one is doing naturally and kind of find where they fall. Yes, I know this sounds like a chore and it's a pain in the butt, but looking at all of that is really going to help you figure out what you need to change, what you need to put into place. You could take that log and compare it to sample schedules that we have on our Instagram page and see, where do I fall? What's working? what's not working. It's going to give you the information that you need to analyze, take a step back, like see the big picture, because in your day-to-day when you're tired, like even if I asked you what did yesterday look like, you're going to be like, okay. So we want you to have that information in front of you so you know where you kind of stand at that point. And if you are like logging and you feel like, okay, this is great, I logged everything, but nothing makes sense to me, that is something that you could bring to us and we will be able to analyze for you. And then you already have all that information that we need. So you're kind of like one step ahead. Even if logging everything gave you that like aha moment, now you know what schedule's perfect. Like, don't get your hopes up. That schedule's not going to be, it's not like, oh, I found a schedule, your baby's just going to follow it. Okay. And I always tell people that too, because yes, we create a schedule. We tell you what our end result wants to be. But when we send that schedule, like my first thing is like, they're not just going to follow the schedule because I emailed it to you. Okay. Like there's a lot that goes into play, and we always start with nighttime first. So that daytime is going to be constant shifting, constant adjusting. As we go through the days with our clients, we adjust everything leading up to bedtime. Every day looks different for the first 3 days. And that is something that I am very transparent about in the beginning, because I don't want people to think like, oh, we're starting sleep training on Monday, like Tuesday's going to be perfect. Like I promise you, it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be all over the place, but we're adjusting wake windows. We're shifting nap times. Bedtime might be earlier that day. Bedtime might be later the next day. Like we never know what the daytime's going to look like, because all we're doing is figuring out, yes, this schedule's ideal and these wake windows are perfect, but that's only the case if they're following the schedule perfectly, which they're not going to be. So now you're getting into that realm of really understanding what they can handle after restorative sleep, what they can handle after non-restorative sleep. And that's going to help you get through the day without them becoming overtired, which is ultimately going to make the nighttime training easier. Be prepared to adjust, be prepared to be all over the place, and just know that it's normal, it's expected. And once you're through that nighttime training, the daytime will all fall into place. The reason I say that is because we start with bedtime anyway. Okay. So daytime, like I said, things are changing, things are moving. We're landing on a bedtime that's appropriate for that child that day. The first night, bedtime might be at 6. The second night, bedtime might be at 7:30. It's going to range, and it's going to really depend on those naps during the day. That's where you can expect those changes to happen. However, no matter what time that bedtime is falling at, whether it's 6 or 7:30, you are implementing sleep training at the beginning of that bedtime. So you're starting at that initial bedtime. You're implementing your sleep training technique until your little one falls asleep, and all the way through morning for any of those wake ups, because remember, they're going to wake up in the morning. And you're doing that until the designated wake up time, which is going to be the same time every morning. So even though bedtime might be different, that morning wake up time is always going to be the same. So if your goal is 7 to 7, your morning wake up time is 7 a.m. You're implementing the sleep training from that initial bedtime, anytime they wake up during the night, all the way until 7 a.m. It's so important that you are starting with that initial bedtime. Let's say your little one feeds to sleep every night. Okay. Now the sleep training, you're no longer doing that. That's what you're removing. So you're placing them down awake and you're implementing it until they fall asleep. And then again, during any middle of the night waking. I cannot tell you how many times people start sleep training in the middle of the night, which is insane to me, because let's take a step back and really like see what this picture looks like. Okay. You are feeding them to sleep, right? They're in your arms. They're dozing off. They're in a deep sleep. So now you're like confident. You can place them in the crib. But guess what? When they wake up in the middle of the night, they're expecting to still be in your arms, and they're actually expecting to still be eating. And when that's no longer happening, and all of a sudden they are in their crib and you're like, let's just, wait it out. They're going to be like, what is happening? This is not normal. This is not the last thing I remember. They're not going to go back to sleep, right? And now all of a sudden it's 3 hours later, everybody's crying, and it's a complete nightmare. So that is what we want to avoid. We want the sleep training to be at the beginning of the bedtime, so that when they wake up in the middle of the night, they will have already put themselves to sleep that first time. So they know what to expect. And now it's going to be easier for them to put themselves back to sleep in the middle of the night. This is like super dramatic, but I always say, if you went to bed at your house and woke up on your neighbor's couch and I was like, just give them 20 minutes, they'll go back to bed. You're not gonna. You're going to be like, how did I get here? Like, what's happening, right? You're freaking out. You want to get back to your house because you're like, how did I get here? That is the same thing that's happening for your baby. So it's unrealistic to assist them to sleep at the beginning of bedtime and then not help them for the rest of the night. Okay. that initial bedtime, like that initial place down, they're awake, you're implementing that sleep training, it can take time. I personally feel like the most common time frame is like 40 to 90 minutes. Obviously, all babies are different. We've had babies go to sleep in 10 minutes and we've had babies take longer. Typically, when that's happening, we ask a couple questions and we realize like, okay, you're going in too soon. You're not going in soon enough. Like that kind of stuff, like the actual sleep training technique is not being implemented correctly. So that is where I'm pretty confident in that 40 to 90 minute range, because that's typically what we see, especially in the clients that we're supporting and we're communicating with in real time, because we are making sure they're doing it correctly. And that's like the time frame that they fall. So keeping those expectations is really important, because the last thing that you want to do is do the bedtime routine. You have everything ready, right? Like your plan's in place. You are putting that baby down awake and you're implementing sleep training, and 25 minutes goes by and you just go in there and feed them to sleep, let's just say. At that point, you just taught them that they have to cry for 20 minutes to get your attention and get what they want. So like now you're building their stamina. So the next time you try, you can forget it. They're certainly passing that 25-minute mark. And now they're going to hit that 45-minute mark where, let's say you're like, call it quits again. Okay. Now you're just building their stamina and you are literally teaching them to cry for longer in order to get what they want, which we don't want them to think that. We want them to know if something's wrong and if they need you, you're going to be entering that room. We don't want them to think that they have to cry for a certain amount of time to get your attention and get what they want. And this is where the sleep training is really important, because the whole goal of this is for you to teach them that you're not disappearing and that you're coming back. Okay. So by building their stamina like that, you're making it harder for them. You're making this more difficult. They're already going to fight you because you're teaching them something new. But when you're going in at the right times and you're implementing that sleep training, you're teaching them that they're okay, they're safe, it's time to go to sleep. You're going to come to them if they need you, but also teaching them that they can do it. Okay. And that's where, it might take 45 minutes of you going in and out of the room, but that's you helping them. You're guiding them through the process and you're going to help them become successful at that. So I just want you to keep that in mind when you're going into this, because sleep training can be difficult, okay? And it's normal, again, for your baby to take a while. It's normal for you to kind of like second guess yourself. So that's where communicating with your partner, making sure that you are both on board and making sure you're ready for this is so important, because you are going to second guess yourself and you are going to be like, am I doing this right? Is this the right thing? Or, am I supposed to go in? Am I not? And that is all where you guys need to be on the same team, supporting each other, understanding what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, so that you can make sure you're on the other side of this successful and your little one has, reached those sleep goals that you have set for them. If you can't stop second guessing yourself and, you're just like not sure if you're doing it right and that like confidence is just missing, reach out to us. Like that's what we're here for. We literally help people in real time as they're implementing the sleep training until their baby falls asleep. And that's just our way of supporting you. Yes, of course, because we want to be there to support you, to make sure that you're confident in what you're doing and that you're doing everything correctly. But we're also there to make sure that you follow through and you get to the other side, because there's a reason you've made it this far. Okay. You want something, you want these changes to be made. So you just have to remember what your why is and just realize that this is an amazing thing. It's going to be great for you, for your partner, for your baby, and it'll be worth it in the end. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Give this video a like if you found it helpful, or share with a friend. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and we'll see you next time.